Hello there, this is L24 Midnight News, and coming up next in our news program. At the conclusion of the preparatory meeting of the foreign ministers of the Arab League at the summit level in Algeria, the participants call for the upcoming Arab summit to represent an exceptional move to unite Arab positions and restore stability in the Arab world. Palestinian foreign minister affirmed that his country is really grateful to the Algerian efforts in putting on the Palestinian cause as the priority in the fight of the Arab summit. In Europe, Russia has officially announced it is suspending its involvement in the internationally brokered deal that allows Ukraine to export grain from Black Sea ports. Brazilian former President Luiz Lula da Silva took the lead over the incumbent Jair Bolsonaro in the vote count for Sunday's runoff election. Hello there and welcome. So starting from Algeria, the end of foreign ministers' meeting has revealed a provision on what the summit itself is promising for the Arab region. The political class of the Arab countries has insisted that Algiers summit has imposed an adaptation and coexistence with the new reality that world in general is living, as well as Arab region. Musa Mayadi.
The Arab political class affirmed that the Arab summit is being held in light of very positive indicators of its success in the face of major challenges in the Arab arena. The political class also noted that Algeria has all the conditions and qualifications to lead the summit towards exceptional goals that were not achieved earlier.
The ministers arrived to many agreements in all the issues which were discussed. So God willing, the issues which will be discussed in the summit, with a consensus from all delegations, and we're looking forward to a successful summit on the 1st and 2nd of November.
Arab consensus on the success of the Algiers summit, which officially enters a decisive phase after the meeting of the League Council at the level of foreign ministers, a success whose features are manifested in the consensus on most of the files put forward, starting from the meeting of delegates and senior officials to the Economic and Social Council, as the foreign ministers, observers and analysts raise high expectations on the result of the challenges after this summit. The regional and international context in which Algiers summit is being held impose adaptation and coexistence with the new reality, and perhaps this is what has begun to emerge remarkably.
On the agenda, the ministers did not postpone anything to the summit, and they agreed on everything, and the situation is really clear for us, the General Secretariat. There is a consensus on the agenda, and we're heading to a successful summit. The meeting of yesterday and today were held in an atmosphere of amiability and respect, so things have returned to their natural path.
The circumstances preceding the convening of the summit on the 1st and the 2nd of November seem to have a positive view. The Arab political class did not miss the assertion that the Arabs have the opportunity for a new start for joint Arab action in the face of mounting calls for the necessity of abandoning interference in the internal affairs of countries with a constant quest of unity and unification of ranks, positions that have long constituted the most prominent principles of Algerian diplomacy, which knows a renewed era that raises its ability to positively influence various scenes regionally and internationally.
The Palestinian foreign minister, on his press conference, which was held after the foreign ministers' meeting, affirmed that his country is really grateful to the Algerian efforts in putting on the Palestinian cause as a priority in the fight of the Arab summit. Riyad al-Maliki stated that Algeria has always been the partner of Palestine, as he stated that his country is looking forward to the summit, which is going to be a summit of Palestine.
We came as a delegation of the Palestinian government, and we have high expectations that Algeria, with all what it represents of an advanced position in supporting the Palestinian cause, Algeria is the historical partner of Palestine, and on its land, there was the announcement of the Palestinian government in 1985. And for this we expected, and this is what we heard from our brothers in Algeria and the Algerian president and the Algerian government, that this summit is the summit of Palestine.
In the same context, the Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki stated that Algeria's agreements will play a major role in pushing the Palestinian faction to work in a more unified manner, as the summit will form a committee to continue the achievement of unification of factions' goals.
This agreement paves the way for a new period in the internal Palestinian relations, and we hope through these decisions and projects of decisions which were agreed upon by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, and they will be transmitted to the leaders to decide on them after tomorrow. There is also an article which talks about forming a Ministers' Committee to continue the Algerian goals to put executive mechanisms to achieve the Algiers Agreement in what concerns the reunification of Palestinian factions.
The Libyan Minister of Foreign Affairs, Najla al-Mangoush, confirmed that the preparatory meeting for the Arab Summit similar to the Libyan crisis, adding that it was agreed on certainty of going to elections in Libya to achieve the aspiration of the Libyan people and the transitional stages and reach political stability in the country.
مهمة تتعلق بالأمن القومي للشأن العربي.
The summit is related to the national security of the Arab issue, and we spoke about several countries, including Libya. And of course, we agreed that it is necessary to go to the elections directly to achieve the demands of the Libyan people and transitional stages and reach the political stability that Libya aspires. In addition to the Yemeni issue and the Syrian issue, as well as Djibouti, Somalia, Palestine, our major and most important cause, I think that we have reached balanced decisions that achieve the interests and ambitions of the Arab people.
Also, Najla al-Mangoush praised the role of the Algerian leadership in managing and consultation in the preparatory meetings for the Arab Summit and reaching consensus to achieve the Arab reunification.
طبعا الجزائر نحن نتعلم من الجزائر في البروتوكول.
We learn from Algeria in protocol, good reception and hospitality. And my dear brother Mr. Mtan Lamamra always welcomes us with good reception and hospitality. Also, the leadership of Algeria was present in wisdom, flexibility, assimilating differences and reaching a consensual area. And this is what we are accustomed to from the Algerian government and from Algeria. And it is the Arab reunification that it is able to achieve.
His Highness Prince Hussein bin Abdullah II will lead the Jordanian delegation to the Arab Summit in the 31st Ordinary Session, which gets underway in Algeria on Tuesday, and that is on behalf of His Majesty King Abdullah II. The Algerian Minister of Communication, Mohammed Bouslimani, confirmed that Algeria has monitored the huge and unprecedented means in the history of the Arab summits, with the recognition of the Arab foreign Algerian media professionals who confirmed the guaranteed success of the summit at the diplomatic and media levels.
As soon as the President of the Republic affirmed that Algeria would hold the Arab Summit, we knew that this event would be exceptional and success has to be guaranteed. We are hopeful with the success of the summit on media level, and we have talked to a large number of Algerian and international journalists and directors of Arab radio and television channels who admitted that for the first time there is this number of giant means for journalists to cover the event.
Joint Arab action is at the core of the 31st session of the Arab League Summit to be held in Algiers on the 1st and the 2nd of November. According to the Arab journalists, Algeria is heading toward a successful summit in the face of major challenges in the Arab world. Zara Farjani.
Algeria aspires to a consensual Arab summit that reflects the objectives of the Arab peoples who yearn for a great deal of solidarity, synergy and integration. Algiers worked hard and made relentless efforts to build a comprehensive and national approach that unites the Arab world. The media delegations present to cover the works of the 31st Arab Summit valued these efforts made by Algeria to hold a successful event.
Algeria plays an important role in being an influential economic power in the African continent, as well as in the Arab world and on the political level, because the flexibility that characterizes the Algerian foreign policy qualifies the country to solve some problems.
The summit, in its present form, was integrated and consistent. The preparation that we found in Algeria was very precise and organized. Greetings to the Algerian government and the people, and greetings to our media colleagues.
Joint Arab actions is the main goal this summit is aiming to achieve. Arab media professionals rely heavily on Algerian diplomacy and its weight to achieve other victories in favor of Arab causes.
Since independence in 1962, Algeria plays a very important role in defending the rights of societies in Arab, regional and international issues as well. And its standing with the struggle of the Lebanese and Malian brothers is remembered by all Arabs.
The Arab Summit in Algeria aims at restoring hopes for joint Arab action and work towards opening new horizons for a common Arab dream. Hence, all Arab leaders are invited to work to build a comprehensive Arab national security in its economic, social, health and educational concept.
To a different matter now, a Palestinian was shot dead after he ran over Zionist soldiers in car in the occupied West Bank on Sunday. The Palestinian Health Ministry stated that he died directly after they shot him and he couldn't reach the hospital. The incident follows months of tension since Zionist forces began a crackdown in the West Bank in March. The American oil company ConocoPhillips signed an agreement with Qatar to take another important stake in the expansion of Qatar's natural gas production. Energy Minister Saad Sharida Al-Ka'bi also said that Qatar is in talks with the Asian nations, the main market for Qatari gas, on participation in its campaign to increase the annual production by 60% to 126 million tons per year by 2027.
To announce ConocoPhillips as our partner in the Northfield South project, or NFS. This is the third and final announcement for the partnership in the NFS expansion project, which will add 2 mega LNG trains that, along with the 4 mega trains of NFE, will raise Qatar's production capacity to 126 million tons per annum. Regarding the value-added partners, we call them, or companies that would come in as buyers to have a small equity participation. That discussion is still ongoing with several Asian buyers.
This is a global market, so refined products, gasoline, diesel, and natural gas that goes through LNG trade in global markets. If you start to restrict what's access going into the global markets, you restrict the supply that's out there, the price will go up, and since they trade on a global market, the U.S. price would go up as well. So it's a policy or a thought, I guess, that might have some short-term impacts, but long-term it's not good for the United States.
The 6-year term of Lebanese President Michel Aoun came to an end on Sunday when he departed the presidential palace without a successor, leaving the small country in a political vogue that is likely to exacerbate its historical economic collapse. Speaking to the crowds of supporters, Aoun denounced his political adversaries, claiming that he prevented him from bringing central bank governor Riyad Salmah to justice. A total of 218 vessels are effectively blocked in their position due to Moscow's decision to suspend its participation in the UN-brokered grain deal. Islam Seed.
Hundreds of grain vessels amassed in the Black Sea moveless after Russia pulled out of UN brokered deal to export grains from Ukrainian ports following the attacks on its fleet in Russian-annexed Crimea. Russia said the ships targeted were involved in securing the grain corridor out of Ukraine's Black Sea ports. In his evening speech, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that more than 2 million tons of food are currently stranded in the sea and accused Moscow of planning for it in advance.
Today, Russia made a rather predictable statement. It said it was finally canceling the grain export initiative, but in fact, it is not their decision today. Russia began deliberately aggravating the food crisis in September when it blocked the movement of ships with our food. From September to today, 176 ships have already accumulated in the grain corridor, which cannot follow their course. Today, more than 2 million tons of food is in the sea. This means that access to food has actually deteriorated for more than 7 million consumers. A strong international response is now needed, both at the UN level and at other levels, in particular at the G20 level.
The United Nations is in contact with Russian authorities about the situation. The European Union and the United States called on Russia to reverse its decision, saying the move could weaken efforts to ease global food crisis.
Truly outrageous. It's going to increase starvation. There's no reason for them to do that. But they're always looking for some rationale to be able to say the reason they're doing something outrageous is because the West made them do it. And it's just not, there's no merit to what they're doing. The UN negotiated that deal, and that should be the end of it.
Moscow had repeatedly said there are serious problems with the deal before its end on November 19th. Russia's ambassador to Washington responded, saying the US response was offensive and made false claims about Moscow's move. The deal, which unblocked Black Sea ports, has allowed Ukraine to export around 9 million tons of agricultural cargo so far. However, Russia's departure from the grain deal marks another development in the 8-month conflict.
8 men attacked migrant center in the southern English port of Dover on Sunday. The attacker threw 3 gasoline bombs attached to a fireworks. Then he drove to a nearby gas station where he tied his neck with a rope, then attached to it to a pole and drove, killing himself. Police after that arrived at the scene moments later, and the investigation is ongoing to know the cause of the attack. Clashes broke out again in Santa Cruz as groups that supported the identities strike for the 2023 census and those that opposed the measure that took streets on Saturday. Bolivian police used tear gas to stop the violence. Santa Cruz, Bolivia's main economic engine, is demanding a census, allowing it to obtain a larger budget and more seats in the Bolivian Congress. More than 81 people, including children, were killed after a footbridge collapse in the Indian state Morbi on Sunday. Around 400 people were at the bridge during the incident. The Indian government has mobilized teams to conduct an urgent rescue operation and to conduct an investigation into the disaster. Extremist militants killed 15 in Burkina Faso soldiers and volunteers militiamen on Saturday as they returned from a supply mission in eastern Burkina Faso. A further 4 soldiers were wounded in the attack in Goma province, while 11 are still missing. Burkina Faso has been battling militants since 2015. The worsening violence spurred soldiers last month to overthrow the government in the country's second coup this year. Demonstrators took to the streets of Congo's eastern city of Goma on Sunday, protesting against a rebel insurgency. Authorities accused Rwanda of backing an allegation Rwanda has repeatedly denied. Some demonstrators tore down a Rwanda flag, setting it on fire as they burned the flag at Rwanda border. One protester vowed to carry the protest into the neighboring country.
Next time we're going to cross the border into Rwanda. They are violating our borders every day. They come over here in the Democratic Republic of Congo every day, and we remain silent.
USA now 10 days away from the US midterm elections that are held every 2 years in America to determine the identity of the members of Congress. But this year, the elections were accompanied by great momentum at the international level after the decision of OPEC+. Hussein Burkan.
Just over a week before midterm elections that will decide control of the US legislative branch, new polling shows Republicans hold an edge over Democrats. After OPEC Plus historical oil cut production, voters are fixated on energy prices, high inflation, and the risk of recession. In a bid to galvanize support for Democrats, former President Barack Obama hit the campaign trail this weekend, warning that the basic foundation of the democracy is at risk.
Who will fight for your freedoms? Is it Republican politicians and judges who think they should get to decide when you start a family or how many children you should have or who you marry or who you love? Or is it Democratic leaders who believe that the freedom to make these most intimate personal decisions belong to every American, not politicians, mostly men sitting somewhere in Washington?
In turn, chairman of the Senate Republican Campaign Committee, Rick Scott, said that concerns about inflation will help his party regain control of the U.S. Senate. Scott added he expected his party to win in Georgia and Nevada, but acknowledged concerns about Pennsylvania, where former President Donald Trump has held rallies to boost the party's candidates.
Well, we've got to figure out how to bring our country back together where we have a civil conversation and, we have no violence. I mean, what happened to Paul Pelosi is despicable. It's unacceptable. One thing I did when I got this job in January 2021, I went to the Federal Election Commission and said, could our senators and House members, could they use their campaign dollars to pay for security for themselves and their family? Unfortunately, it's become a more dangerous place, and we've got to do everything we can to lower the rhetoric, have a real civil conversation, but also make sure people are safe.
Scott's remarks come days after an intruder demanding to see the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi broke into her San Francisco home and attacked her husband with a hammer in an assault that stoked fears about political violence ahead of the November 8 midterm elections.
And just now, I have got the latest in Brazil. The leftist former president, widely known as Lula da Silva, has gained 50.83% of the votes, with over 90% of the votes counted in firstly contested runoff election on Sunday. It was a tight race, with incumbent Jair Bolsonaro being denied a second term as mustered 49.17% votes. The two candidates had previously gone head-to-head in a first round of voting on October, but neither gained more than half of votes, forcing Sunday's runoff vote, which has become a referendum on two starkly different visions for Brazil. And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup by Sofiane Katori.
Thousands of protesters are marching through the streets of Copenhagen, demanding that climate issues be at the center of Denmark's upcoming general elections. The People's March for the Climate is organized only 2 days before the general elections on Tuesday, 1st of November. Legislative elections that are expected to be close between the ongoing left and bloc gathering right and far right. Tens of thousands gathered in Czech capital on Sunday to express their solidarity with Ukraine and support for democratic values, with people waving Czech, Ukrainian and EU flags. The rally took place in response to 3 current anti-government demonstrations, during which protesters demanded the resignation of pro-Western coalition government of Conservative Prime Minister Peter Fiala for its support for Ukraine. 11 people were killed on Saturday, including 2 police officers, in crash at an overcrowded stadium concert in Kinshasa. Long was built up outside the stadium for the concert headlined by Congolese singer Fally Ipupa. as people waited to go through the security check. The 33rd Carthage Film Days kicks off in Tunisia for a week of film screenings for Arab and African countries. Tunisian director Fouad Bourdir said that Carthage must always focus on its primary objectives, which is to defend quality Arab and African cinema and not commercial cinema.
Ending up with sport, world number 4, Dani Medvedev didn't have things all his own, but he stepped up when needed to overcome Denis Shapovalov 4-6, 6-3 and 6-2 in the final to clinch men's single title at Vienna Open. The 26-year-old Medvedev produced moments of magic in the third set as he blunted the attack of Shapovalov with the range of stunning passing shots. The top seed hit 24 winners and broke serve 5 times, sealing the title on his 6th match point.
Your winner, Daniil Medvedev!
And to this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. For now, good night.